Hey guys, so for this video, as you can see, we will be painting again. Yay. So we have snails and mushrooms. So this was just like a quick idea I had. So all those, the really light, weird looking parts was like the initial like paint layer, if you will, of me just trying to get like the base outlines down and the colors, because you can see like I like to use I painted the canvas black because I want the black showing through. So that's why not everything is completely like colored in. Like some of it is a little separated with lines in between. So I was trying to make sure I knew where everything was sitting at. But yeah, so now I'm just going back in with the actual acrylic now to put down, like, start doing some of the shading and putting down some of the colors. And yes, I grabbed the paint out of the cap because I hate mixing colors. So I have a bunch of different colors for this purpose. So most of them are fairly similar, so that's like I kind of got to be careful with which ones I pick. But for the most part, they're all a little different. So that's what we're doing here. But yeah, so you can already see you've already gotten some of it done with that front snail there. So now I'm just trying to do the back here. So I can just start working on getting some of that color down. But this was like the second go around I did for this painting. So I did one originally on watercolor paper, which was already a bad idea. So, because when I was working on it, I was like, okay, I don't like this, because one, it feels really weird, and it was just like nothing was mixing properly. And it actually looked a little bit different than this. So I just decided to switch over to a canvas, and we went from there. So overall, it looks actually pretty okay. If you've seen the hedgehog painting, it actually looks a little better than the hedgehog painting. I did put pencil on this, but it's at the very end, and it wasn't nearly as much pencil, but I think the pencil kind of helped. But you'll see when we get there. But yeah, so for this, it was kind of just like more your generic, regular type of colors. Like for the tree trunks, I just decided just to do brown. I didn't do any other color. And obviously the plants and the snails, I can do whatever I want to do because it doesn't really matter. It can be as colorful as I want. So that's what we're doing. But yeah, so I have like two different type of acrylic paints. Like I have one like like Apple Barn and the Artisit Loft paint, you know, from Walmart and Michaels, which are very light and they're not that good. So I use both. So right now I'm using those at the moment to just start putting down some color and some layers. And then I'll switch over to different acrylics here soon that are a little bit darker, a little more opaque, and start writing in more detail. But right now, this is what we're at. Sure. But yeah, even then, like, you can see that pink and the purple are so similar. It's kind of odd to try and figure out how to differentiate them. But I'm also just trying to put down just like some basic lines and stuff. That's the good thing about paint, is that you can sit there, go back and fix it and change things as much as you need to, right? Like, unless like, you know, unlike pencil and pen where it's like once you put it down, it's down. Like you can't change it. So that's like definitely one of the good things about acrylic, that you just have that option to go back and continually change it as often as you need. But again, I'm still kind of like in this learning phase, so it's like I'm not an expert yet. But this is me also just trying to figure stuff out. So I think for next time I know what I'm going to try and maybe do a little bit differently and see how that works. But for now, it wasn't too bad. Again, we're still experimenting here. I'm not trying to do anything like super difficult. I wouldn't mind trying to like paint some dragons sometime, but because in like dinosaurs, but because of the scales and stuff, like I'm not ready for that. I probably could try it, but we'll see. But I already have an idea for another painting I want to do anyway, so I'm going to do that one first. Which you guys actually might like. It's one of the more like commonly accepted themes, I suppose, like one of the bigger themes that a lot of people like, that's more universal. Like this. So I'm trying to add in like more floral stuff too, because I know floral is more appealing to a lot of people. So that's what I'm trying to do, like with my animals, include some floral stuff. I'm not saying the floral stuff is perfect, but it's just something just to try and include more people versus only like a small little group. But for shading, I was kind of having it like up top, like top right, or I guess you could say the very top, because I turn it on so it's like a diamond for the square. So the very top right And behind them is where the shading essentially was supposed to be. That's just where I wanted it at. Which, I mean, it kind of worked. Like, some of it's not... It did and it didn't work. But that's my fault. It's just me trying to... I just gotta figure it out a little more. I just don't... It's also, like, for me with acrylics, because of the blending, I feel like if you don't... Unless you know exactly what you're doing, you know how to blend them, if you don't have, you know, same color groupings, it's not gonna look right, because it won't blend properly. Because that's like me, but like, you know, with marker and pencil, you can use whatever you want and make them blend. So that's also, I'm like, But again, that's on me. Like, I just gotta figure that part out myself. So, which I probably will do next time. Because there is some parts that could have been a little bit darker. Specifically the yellows. But again, if I do yellow again, we'll try and make it a little bit darker. This is just a fun little experiment. Like, it wasn't anything. Like, I'm just trying to do a little more painting. Because I just kind of had this in mind. So I just kind of wanted to. Because the paintings are kind of just like an every now and then type of thing, essentially. Like, that's all they are. So yeah, so now you can kind of start seeing how the mess is starting to come together. Because now we're just adding more. But don't worry. Like, I cleaned some of it up, which you'll see. So it looks a little bit better. I mean, it actually, like, I'm looking at the end of it, and it actually does look kind of cool with the way I did it. So I'm going to start doing that way from now on. With the background, at least. Because all that yellow and the orange go away. I actually ended up repainting it black. And it looks a lot better. Okay, so now you can kind of see where I started. Okay, so now you have this little pot here of acrylic. These are my more opaque paints. So you can already see the difference down here with the foreground snail, the green, brown, and yellow one. He already looks a lot darker. Along with that tree trunk where it actually has a lot of texture, which I think looks really cool. So now I'm starting to do that because these are darker paints. So that's how I do it. So I have my cheaper paints, which are good for like base layers to get down, you know, a few basic shades, just start planning stuff out, getting more of a shape. But these are just good just to start adding in more of that detail and to make it darker, to really push out the shapes. So that's why I like them. That's why I do it this way. This is just me. So now obviously if I run out of them, I will have to figure out another solution. I might have to just buy more of them just to have them, because I do like that. So it's nice. So I'm not having to worry about, like, you know, multiple layering and the cheaper paints, hoping that they'll get darker. I don't have to do that. I have other things for that. But with these paints, these type are from Michaels. I had to get rid of most of them because they were dried out and they were like, foamy. But some of them have paint on their cap, so I'm like, I didn't want to throw away that paint because I felt that was wasted. So some of them have that, so I just kind of take it off and just use the cap for paint first before I actually go in there in the actual bottle, just so I can make sure I use that paint. So I was like, okay, I mean, it's a little messy, but it's okay. Painting is just messy. But so with these, you can see how I'm kind of like layering them to make them a little bit darker. And it's like, I'm trying to still learn how to blend properly. Like, again, I have an idea for next time of what I could possibly do. So I might just try that and see what it does. Now, I feel like for the tree trunk, I don't really need to completely blend it because it's supposed to have texture, you know? But now the snails and stuff and the leaves, like, yeah, I feel like it kind of needs to be a little blended because they don't necessarily, like, they have texture, but not a lot. Like, to me, they're pretty smooth. Unless you do, like, spots or something, or, like, the dots, I suppose. But, like, I'm not that detailed of an artist. I probably should be, but I'm not. But I know another problem I have, too, is, like, if I make objects kind of curve around the subject, or, like, the coloring as well, which is another problem I need to start fixing. I can only just tell because of the trunk back there with the purple snail. Is I have a little bit of it like curving around the snail's body and it shouldn't be. But I mean, I kind of correct it later a little bit. But again, I can also kind of get away with it because, again, the trunk has texture on it. You know, it's got the bark, so it's like it doesn't have to be completely smooth. If it was, it'd be a little bit different story. But with these paints, I mean, they kind of blended out. I didn't have to do too much work of that. But again, if I were to use like colors that didn't work well with those, I would have to try and blend them out. So, I don't know. But again, that's me trying to figure this out. This is just another little experimentation. So we'll see. With the next one, we'll see what I do. Because that one will be a little bit different than this one. It'll be kind of like in the same area, but a little bit different. Oh yeah, this right here, I said, oh, I was like, this is too much. See, now I'm just like, so I was trying to like push it out some to kind of like blend it out, fade it a little bit. But yeah, that was way too bright. I said, oh, that hurts my eye. I'm like, we gotta change that. But in the end, I kind of did that a little bit. Yeah, so some of this I kind of waited though to do the darkest because I think some people work from like dark to light, which I just can't do. I can't fathom that. I'm like, I wouldn't know where to start. So it's like I have to do light to dark. That's why I'm like trying to drag stuff out. So same thing with this. So this is kind of like where like the fun kind of texture comes in because again, it's just lines. Like I don't got anything super special with this. But I had fun with the tree trunks though, because it was just lines after lines. Like I didn't have to like do any blending. I could just draw some strokes and just make it fun and, you know, curvy or whatever. It's like I didn't have to try too much. And it actually turned out pretty nice. So overall, I am a fan. But even with this, because like where the lighting was, I was like, well, how, like, that was my thing. I'm like, well, how far over can I bring like the lighter colors if it doesn't make any sense anymore? And then, because some of them, like as you can see here, I was kind of still putting in the middle of the trunk just to add in the texture and whatnot, even though I'm like, it doesn't make it too much sense probably, but I'm like, it just kind of gives you, I guess, almost like more of like a 3D effect, I suppose, because if some of it's kind of popping off, it'll be a little bit lighter than like other areas which are darker. So I'm like, it kind of worked. So yeah, you can see here too, where it's like I'm starting to put more of the darker colors like in the middle of the trunk to make it look like it is in shadow. And still just adding the lines. Like some of it does blend out, but again, you can kind of just see just the lines being added, so it just makes it look really cool. But yeah, I think the trunks are my favorite part. Just like working on them and everything, the way they look are definitely my favorite. But I'm like, those actually kind of turned out really good, so I'm pretty happy with those. But when I go back in later on, oh yeah, this, oh, I said, oh, what am I doing here? So I was like, that's way too much green added. I'm like, no, it just does not look right. So it was just way too bright. But even with the way I had the leaves, it just didn't completely turn out properly because I was like, they don't look right. Like they look a little funny. So I was like, okay. So yes, now I'm just trying to blend them out because I was like, Which it kind of worked a little bit. Not a ton. But I mean, in the end, they turned out like okay. When I was adding more stuff, but it was kind of a mish. But yeah, I just put way too much of that light green on it first, but oh well. It gets corrected, so we're okay. But yeah, at the beginning, I was like, ooh. But again, that's a great thing about acrylics. You can go back in and fix as many times as you need to. Yeah, so these actual paints weren't that bad. Like, they're actually fairly opaque, which is nice. Because I was actually kind of surprised when I was doing them. Alright, so now for this, We're going back in with, I think, gouache now. So with the trunk back there, you can kind of tell. Yeah, you can see how it's like super dark now. So I put gouache in there. So like this front trunk I really liked, and I'm like, I don't want to completely lose it. Obviously it needed to probably look a little bit better, but I'm like, that's actually some pretty good texture though. So it didn't look too bad. But yeah, so with the gouache, like I'm still trying to get used to gouache too, because it's like if you don't use enough water, it gets like sticky. But if you use too much water, it is like watercolor, and I'm like, ugh. So I was trying to like figure out like the fine line. So that's why I wasn't trying to go like super dark with the gouache either, because I was like, I was trying to do like little strokes just to add some color in there without it being like entirely super opaque. Like I didn't want to completely cover up the acrylic, but I still wanted to put some stuff on there just to start adding a little bit more too. Because like you can see, it kind of does blend out a little bit. That's nothing super crazy, but it kind of works. But the flowers and stuff in the background, I didn't touch with the gouache. I just put paint on there and left them alone for now. But yeah, so you can kind of see here where I am. I'm just dragging the brush across the trunk just to kind of keep some of that texture. Again, adding color in, but keeping the texture as much as possible. And then we're doing the same thing on the snail shell, where I'm just kind of putting it in, trying to blend it out. Again, I'm trying to figure out how to blend it out properly. So that's something else I'm still trying to figure out. But, you know, we'll get there eventually. But yeah, so this trunk I'm working on now kind of does end up looking like the one in the back. So again, there's still like texturing, as you still see like, I suppose lines of the bark. Even though it does get a little more blended. But again, still looks really good. So same thing with this snail. So the shell, that's the side that's facing us, I didn't really put any of the super light colors on there. Like I was trying to keep it as dark as possible, because that is the shaded area. So I was like, I kind of did it, but it also doesn't look like it's super shaded because of the yellow. But again, that's my bad. So that's why I'm like, next time I do yellow, I'll try and make it darker where I need to and just add in a little bit of brown, I suppose. Because I'm like, ugh. Because again, that's something I gotta figure out. But the snails are still kind of cute. Yeah, I put the little spikies on there just to give them a little bit of a fancy element. I'm like, I didn't want to just plain snails. I'm like, I just wanted to add a little bit of something. So I gave them little spikies. It's like, yeah, why not? Brings a bit of a fun element to it. Yeah, so putting the green on here, the green actually kind of blended fairly well. I was surprised. So the green turned out probably the better one than the rest. Because it had managed to... Because the colors I picked, they just blended nicely. Because some of them were fairly similar with the gouache, because they have like 36 colors, and some of them are kind of the same. Especially like 2 of the greens I think are pretty similar, which were the 2 I used for that. So they actually kind of blended out nicely because they were so close. So it just kind of worked. Even though I think I used Perfume Lily for like the lightest one. But then again, it's still blended. So I was like, okay, this is actually turning out kind of nice. So I was like, this is good. And even when I added like the darkest green, which I don't remember what it was, like it still turned out nice with the blend when I was putting it in there. Because I only did like the very bottom part, I think, of the snail with a dark green. So it didn't stand out like too much where it was supposed to be. Again, just to kind of show the shading. Yeah, I'm not a painting expert. I don't know. This again is just me experimenting and just trying things out. I'm just recording it because why not? So that's what you do when you're learning something new, is record it. And that's what I did. So I was like, haha. I'm sure over time it'll get better though. But we'll see what happens on this next painting I do. But yeah, so with the yellow, you can kind of see where I'm starting to do a little bit darker now. With some of the yellow. And again, I was doing like the darker yellows I have, because that's what I was comfortable with using. I'm like, I probably should just stuck with a brown. But I'm like, I felt like the brown would have been too much. So now I'm also like, maybe like a red or an orange, I suppose, would have been better. Just to darken it up some more. So I think I did use an orange. But it's just not dark enough. So. But I'm like, well, now I know for next time. And yes, I refuse to mix colors. I'm sure if I mix colors, it'd be better, but I refuse to mix colors. I hate doing it. Because half the time, it's either I don't make enough or I make too much and it's wasted. And I'm like, no. Alright, so now we're onto the pencil. So what this is I decided to add in some like color around the edges. So I have a few paint markers. So one of them was this teal color. So I decided to use that because it wasn't used anywhere else. So I was like, well, let me just put it behind just to kind of brighten things up. So then I grabbed an actual like aqua, I think it was light aqua for a pencil I have, to kind of blend out the edges. And then I just grabbed a few colors for shading. Like I grabbed like some aquamarine type colors, an olive green, a brown, and a dark purple, and a peacock blue. Along with just like the regular colors for putting the pencil on top. So I was doing that to add some texture, add a little bit more detail, kind of help blend it out some, which it actually did work. And then I just grabbed like the random bright colors I have just to put like strokes on it and just add a little bit more in there. It was probably a bad idea, but I'm like, overall it didn't turn out that bad. So it's not as heavy. I didn't do it nearly as heavy as I did with the hedgehog painting. So it's a little bit lighter, like you can't, unless you're like right up on it, you can't tell that much, which is good. Because most of it does look like it's paint, which is a plus. But I'm also doing this to compensate for the fact that I don't completely know how to blend yet and get all those details in here yet. So that's why I was trying to put in the pencil just to kind of help with that fact. So it worked and it didn't. But yeah, so I was messing around with it. I still think it turned out pretty good though. But yeah, so it's like you can't tell it's pencil if you're away from it. If you're up close, you can tell there's pencil. But even then, it's like some of the pencil didn't completely come all the way through. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because it's like, obviously, since painting, I still want like the gouache and acrylic to pop through more. But it was just nice to have the pencil on there just for like the extra little textures and stuff, which I'm fine with. Because it didn't overpower this time, like the last time I did this. So they actually kind of worked together more. But some colors stood out more than others, which I was like, okay, I wasn't a super fan of, but I did what I did, and I'm like, I'm not going to worry about it too much. Again, experimenting, me just trying to figure out what I like and what I don't like to try and get like a better style of painting. So, but I think this was a bigger success than the hedgehog because there was less pencil added, and it just looks like there was less pencil, so it looks a little bit better. I'm still going to put pencil on here just because I want to, and again, just to add in some more. But because I also feel like it just kind of helps add in a little bit more extra colors in there I couldn't get in there before, and possibly like try and blend them out some. Because I think I went back and actually grabbed like the main color and went back over it with the pencil to try and blend it out some, which it did kind of help. So that's what we were doing. But yeah, so even on the flowers in the very back, I did put pencil on there just to kind of blend it out some again to make it a little bit blurry because it's back there just for a little bit more, even though I wanted the front stuff to be more in focus. So that's what I was doing. So yes, they look like they do have pencil on them, which is they do. But yeah, so you can also see where I said when I was going to go back and repaint the orange and yellow parts black, which I did, and it looked a lot better to me. I like the black because I feel like it just makes colors pop a lot more, like you can see here. Like especially with the aquamarine, it all pops. Versus if I had just left it as white, which I don't like nearly as much because I'm just not a fan of white. So I like black. But yeah, so I painted this canvas black. So like I have a lot of my canvases I have are white and I have to paint them. But whenever I buy more canvases, they will be all black already, so I don't have to worry about having to paint them. But yeah, for my browns, I do use like an orangey yellow color for the highlight color, just because I think it looks fine. I think I've used gray before, and I think the gray turned out a little bit better. Yeah, so you can kind of see where I mean with the yellow, like it didn't completely get the full effect I needed. This still looks really light. So, but I think next time I'll try either to use a red or a brown for the shading or something. I'm thinking maybe brown might be better than the red, so we'll see. But I don't know what I'm doing color-wise next. I just know what the subject is and what I'm doing. I just don't know about colors yet, so we'll see. I might be using a random color generator, which is probably what's going to happen. But, so yeah, so you can kind of see all the fun extra colors I was adding. Again, they didn't stand out too much, which again, not a problem. Oh yeah, I used a little bit of a black pencil just to add in some outlines. But yeah, not too much. Okay, are y'all ready for the tape reveal? Because I don't think y'all are. I do not think. But if you think you're ready, then let's go. It's going to be so much fun. Ooh, told you weren't ready. Yeah, so I made the mistake of, because I do this every time I paint, where I will paint to the very edges, and I'm like, wait, why did I paint the canvas black if I'm just going to cover it? So I just went back and painted the edges. Oh, I didn't know that wasn't in camera view. My bad. Doesn't matter. Yeah. So I went back and repainted it, and it looks a lot better now because of that. But as you can see, it was supposed to go all the way over, and I said, no. So I need to start remembering that. Do not bring it all the way to the edge. Because it's a waste of paint, and I'm so mad, and it's a waste of time because I have to go back and repaint it again, and I shouldn't have to if I only paint it once. But that's my bad. But it's fine. Yeah, this was kind of a mess trying to like line it up so it wouldn't like go over the edge. A little spot it did, but it's not awful. But again, with the edges painted, it looks so much better. And just the black background, and I'm like, ooh, I love it. I don't know if I'll hang it because it's not really like my thing. But again, it was just a fun little subject. I'm trying to be more inclusive and let more people in, but it's okay. It's just a fun experiment. But yeah, so we had fun with this one. So I don't know when I'll do a painting next, but I know next time... Oh shit, what am I doing next time? I'm either going to be doing a coloring page, or I'm going to be working on my shadows characters. It'll be one of those most likely. But that is what you have to look forward to next time. If you want to stick around and see what I do next, by all means, please follow. If you want to know what Shadows is, I have the comic page already up, the first page, along with other comics that I have of my characters. I have 2 more up at the moment. One has like 19 pages, which I've been working the longest. I have another one that's 1 page as well, because I just started that one. I do like other drawings, fantasy stuff as well. I like to do dinosaurs, every now and then coloring pages. Now we're getting to paintings. Eventually I'm going to start doing sculptures. So if you want to enjoy more, please stick around. But here is the end of it. So this is what it looks like. So as you can see, like I said, the black just, wow, makes it look so good. It probably looks a little funny because of the border, but I'm like, I don't care. I enjoy it. I think it looks good. So I'm wondering if next time bring out certain parts past the border. I actually might do that instead. Like the leaves I could have brought out more. Probably the bottom of the trunk I could have brought out more. So I might do that next time. But, so that's actually my, yeah. So I could probably bring some stuff out of the border. But there you go. That is the end. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please stick around for more, and I will see you guys in the next one.